Hey everybody, welcome to season 5 of What's IGN Crushing On. I'm Caryn Solomon and I'm your host, and we're here to talk about what's hot in pop culture. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntech. Syntech is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world. Welcome to episode 3 of season 5. We have an amazing show for you, but firstly, let's welcome back Leanne. Hi, Leanne.
Hello, Caryn Ann. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. Did you survive your week?
I survived my week, thank the Lord. Today on the show, we have the cast and crew of Netflix's first Afrikaans series, Ludik. So, it's a jam-packed show. We also spoke to Arnold Vosloo, who you will remember from lots and lots of TV shows growing up. But, you know, those of us that are fans of 90s Brendan Fraser will also remember him from The Mummy. We also spoke to other cast members such as Rob van Vuuren, Jandre, LeRoux, Sean Cameron Michael, Tina Redman, Inge Beckmann, Diaan Lawrenson, Zane Meas, Tshamano, Sebe, as well as the writer and creator of the show, Paul Bice, and the producers of the show, Anele, Mdoda, and Frankie de Toit. It was a lot of people and there's a lot of things coming, but we will talk more about Ludik a little bit later. Also on the show, this week on the show, we'll be discussing the news about SA's first bachelor being homeless, as well as Nepo Baby, Brooklyn Peltz Beckham's 70 tattoos that he dedicated to his wife. And then Leanne and I are going to talk about our most iconic Afrikaans TV characters to stay in line with our Afrikaans strong episode today. I just try to say, I like to use English words in an Afrikaans accent. I don't know if you heard that. But I feel that was kind of a good attempt.
Very good. It was like I was listening to Rian Kruiwagen all over again.
I was going to try and say it in Afrikaans, but I didn't want to put myself through that and put the listeners through that as well. But I'm getting quite good at Afrikaans now. When I was overseas, my parents and I spoke to each other a lot in Afrikaans so that other people would not understand what we were saying. So we could gossip. But knowing my luck, I was also very nervous that like the one person that understands Afrikaans would be like behind us and be like, like, wat het jy van my gesê? So,
Murphy's Law, yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about this news about Lee Thompson. So, South Africa's so over the weekend or week, whatever, the news broke that South Africa's first bachelor, Lee Thompson, was living at a homeless shelter in Cape Town. Which, not to shame the homeless, people fall in difficult times and, we got to respect that. But it's obviously shocking because, Lee is who he is and he's a public figure and people were not expecting this. But, yeah.
I think what was wild to me, okay, so you sent me this link and I was just like, sorry, what now? And it's wild because, like you said, no shame. Like the last 2 years have been tough on a lot of people and it's been really hard. But I think what was interesting was the news broke that he was homeless and then fans went to his Instagram and like Homeboy is still posting influencer shots in a store talking about activewear. So I'm just like, but now what is the truth? Like if he's homeless, why is he still... Not why is he still, but you're still being influencer vibe? So, like, what's going on is my question.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I can't also admit to knowing more than I do. The news broke this weekend on Netwerk 24. And I think Huisgenoot broke it. And I obviously read the U version in English. But I mean, I could believe that maybe he had a bank of content that he's still posting. I mean, he could still have a phone and be buying data and that kind of things. But apparently, according to the article, we will link to it in our show notes for those who would like to read. Um, he was staying at a guest house in Cape Town CBD, which he paid 300 rand a night for. But the owner of the guest house told journalists that he left the place in such a mess. There's photographs of it if you would like to see. But he left the place in such a mess, and he didn't pay, and they had to evict him. And then he came back to the place after he was evicted, and he was like still came let himself in, and it was a struggle to get him out. And then when you spoke to like other homeless people, they said that they'd seen him on the streets and they'd seen him at the shelter, and he apparently came up to one of them and asked them like to show him like how to make it on the streets, basically.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this
Because
is not like we were reporting, because I mean the article ended by saying they've reached out to him, or they're trying to get a hold of the family or whatever. So like it's a little bit of speculation, but like we don't really know. But like this is like for real type of thing.
yeah, so this man, he said that Lee was sleeping outside, but then the police picked him up and took him to a homeless shelter. So then he was staying at the homeless shelter.
That is
Um,
wild. But he wasn't, so because he was like a fitness dude, wasn't he? He was a fitness instructor, and I know he had a couple of TV gigs, and I know he was involved in one of those like specialized gym situations.
yeah, I
Um,
don't know if his businesses just didn't fall through, because I mean, I'm aware that when stars like these go on Mnet shows, they give them like psychiatric help, they give them like
mm,
financial advice and all that kind of things. But also, it's been so many years since he's been on there, so I don't know if he's taken to the financial advice, if it's not going well, if he owes someone money, if there's some other situation going on. I'm not sure, and I'm not, you know, it could be any of these things, but so he had, I mean, this is also pure speculation. So a couple of, maybe, I want to say a couple of months or a year or so ago, he announced that he wrote a book a tell-all book about his experience on The Bachelor.
mhm.
And people apparently, I mean, I saw this on Instagram, but people apparently pre-booked the book, but no book came out. and
Oh,
he and he said that like Mnet was trying to stop the book from coming out. They were paying him, and Mnet said that no, they were not. They were not paying him any money, and
well, this is my thing, because when you go on a reality show, do they pay you? I just thought you like
they do
on
pay.
the show.
No, they do pay you. So if you go on a reality show and say you're away for 3 months, that's 3 months that
Mm.
you're not working. So
Oh,
they
like a
pay
stipendy
you,
type
yeah.
vibe.
So they
Yeah.
sort of like pay you to keep up, like you have to pay your rent, you have to pay those kind of things that you're not going to be there for. But they don't necessarily like pay you money. They will help you get endorsements and that kind of stuff. But that after that period, it's up to you to
Make
like
it work.
make it work.
Mm.
So I don't know if this book exists that he wrote, or if it was just like a way to make money. We don't know. There's a lot of rumors about him flying around that I can't confirm or deny. But I
Mm.
mean, it's a hectic story. And obviously we live in a city where there's so many homeless people, and
Yeah.
I hope that he gets a help that he deserves, like the help that he needs, clearly. But
Mm.
also I hope that maybe this also draws attention to how quickly people can go from being affluent or being stable to becoming homeless in this country. I
I
mean,
mean, yeah.
imagine people who
The
don't have the exposure he has, doesn't have the money that he had from before. I mean, he was a top model, he was a rugby player. Imagine how easy it is for them. You lose your job, and all of a sudden you can't pay your rent, you can't like you know you
yeah.
can't pay for food and stuff like that. It's so easy to become homeless, and that's another situation that we are sitting with. um but yeah, I'm also, the only thing we can talk about Lee is what is available for consumption by the media. But
Mm.
um you and Huisgenoot have done like investigative journalism. They did carte blanche level research into this. So, I mean, I do think it's true. I do think he is homeless. But he is still on Instagram and he still has enough, at least he has money for data. Um,
At least he's making it by, you know. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, the article alluded to family. I find it so bizarre when you have people around you, um, or you have family and you aren't able to reach out for help or get the help you need. Like that's sad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we don't know what he's been going through. If like they know about what
Mm.
he's struggling with, or also if if he
It
might not have
sounded like they were distant.
exhausted him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but Shem, I hope that people aren't also like bothering him unnecessarily, like trying to get into the shelter to see him or whatever, and
Like
preventing him from getting the
fans,
help. Yeah,
fans
like
at the shelter.
fans
Sorry, I
fans
shouldn't
me,
laugh, but like it's
fans
just
me
it's
buy a book. I'm flabbergasted at this. This book that's not even out, but you are doesn't even have a proper publishing company, but you are pre-buying it. Why are you doing that? And what mystery could be so exciting in this book that you would want to pay for it before it's out?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Celebrity is weird, I suppose. I mean, we I mean, this is a podcast about pop culture and following the lives of
Mm.
celebrities or following the lives of people that we are curious about. So I suppose everyone's got their own celebrities that they want to follow, and if Lee Thompson was their vibe, then I mean, go forth
Well, I
and help
mean,
your man
that
out.
that pre-book that money that they gave for the to pre-buy those books that funded his lifestyle. It seems like for the last couple of months. Um,
Yeah.
so good luck to him and good luck to whatever's coming next. But on that note, let's go on to our second topic, which is a little bit lighter and not talking about the homeless crisis in South Africa. But Brooklyn Beckham, the son of David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, um, he recently married Nicola Peltz and took on her surname as well, and she took on his. They have a combined
Mm.
surname. The news came out this week that apparently of his 100 or over 100 tattoos, 70 of it is dedicated to Nicola. Let
How
me know, and they only
long
got
have they
married
been?
this year.
Yeah, I would be like, how long have they been dating?
I
Because
don't think
that's
it's
that's a
that long.
lot of ink.
Like 70. And I mean, I guess some of it you can like pretend that it's like not her, but like he has her eyes, he has the entire wedding vows, like his entire wedding vows to her tattooed on his arm or body. I just said arm, but it looks like an arm. He has like it's just like it's unnecessary, man. Like
Hi, Shane
it's a
Caryn. It's his
no
declaration of
70.
love.
You can tell her he loves her. You can buy her roses. Like, how do you have so much space on your body? Like that eyes were
Okay,
not small.
so
It's like
they've
big
they've
ass
been
eyes.
they've been dating for just over 2 years in April.
And he is what, 20? 19? 21?
23.
Okay,
23.
23. I mean,
I just love the story of the eyes because the minute you said it, I thought of Zane, who had gotten Gigi's eyes tattooed across his chest. And I was like, it's like the way people say, I love you now. Like, do I have to get eyes tattooed on me?
no. But also, that's one tattoo that Zayn has to remove. If Brooklyn and Nicola do not make it, if they one day decide to split, this boy has to spend probably over a year in laser therapy, whatever, removing those tattoos.
And as Pete will tell you, it is very painful because isn't like he had like over he was like getting all of his tattoos removed recently.
I
So
love
he
it.
was
I love it that you always find a way to bring
shut up.
Pete into the
I
conversation.
knew you were gonna do that. But we're talking about tattoos and it's a natural segue, okay?
Okay, but, but yeah, so Brooklyn has over 70 tattoos of his wife. Um, I still think
Yeah,
his wedding was ridiculous, and
I think
I
I
mean,
have not been paying attention to all of it. I think the only thing that kind of crossed my path with regards to the Beckhams and whatever is the rumored feud between Nicola and Victoria, which I found interesting. Well, not interesting, but I was just like, oh, obviously people would put. I mean, I don't know how true it is or how not true it is because tabloids be tabloids, yo. But yeah, just an interesting way of how we monitor people's lives for any inkling of drama. Yeah, fascinating.
yes. So I mean, if one day that feud becomes an issue and they decide to split up, my boy's gonna have 70 tattoos. And as the way I'm looking at Brooklyn Beckham's face right now, and I can see him getting another 30 more tattoos of Nicola.
I know
I
the
wouldn't put it
photo I
past him.
saw. He's still got a lot of open skin to go, man. So
His
yeah,
face is he's gonna have Nicola across his forehead. She does
I
have actually quite
see.
nice eyes, though. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of get it. Um, but so today we're talking about like Afrikaans and iconic Afrikaans series because of Ludik, because Netflix finally has an Afrikaans original series. And on that note, I want to ask you, what is your who is your like your favorite, who is your most iconic Afrikaans TV character?
So this one's tough because I didn't really watch Afrikaans TV until
Mm,
about grade 10. And then someone said the best way to study Afrikaans is to watch it. And
watch, yeah.
Sevendelaan was the obvious choice. And then I got absorbed into Sevendelaan. Um, so I think one of my standout characters would either have to be Sandra Stutterheim because she
Mm,
was like OG bad bitch.
yeah.
Like on South African TV, she was amazing. Or I mean, and I know it's a little bit biased because she's on the podcast, but Paula van der Lek was amazing as a character. Like you hated her, you loved her, you rooted for
Mm,
her, you wish she would fail. Like it was just her arcs in Sion were amazing in terms of how they built and fell and
yeah.
her run on the show. So yeah, I think those would be two. I mean, if you're saying iconic TV characters, I mean, we chatted about this briefly before we started talking, but I never watched Tigoli. Like I wasn't lucky enough to have open time. I mean, to have Mnet without open time. But if you're gonna say iconic Afrikaans characters, I think Shalene Seti Richards definitely
Mm.
gets a shout out. She was iconic as the character in Egoli. So yeah, those would be my top guesses. Yours?
So I used to watch a lot of Afrikaans TV because my parents quite like Afrikaans TV, and
Mm-hmm.
mainly probably because apartheid and they never had much options. But but of course, watched Seven Line Obsessed, was watching for many years. But I would say my iconic Afrikaans TV character, the character that I will always go to, is my girl Livexi. Like she has been through the most. Every episode they're shitting on her, they do it like, she's struggling with something and she makes it out the other side. And like her name is Lavinia, but nobody calls her Lavinia. She even says in the song, my naam is Lavinia, maar hulle noem my Liewe Heksie. Like, just call the girl by what she wants to be called. Like, she was the OG of like, let me name myself. Don't name me for me. Like, I know I'm a nice witch, but like, do you have to call me nice witch all the time? Um, Lovely Heksie. Also voiced by I don't know what her real name is, but the actor who plays Hilda in Sevenderland.
Oh yes, I know who you
She
mean.
voiced Liveexi. I hope I'm right with that actually. That's an unfounded claim that I am saying. Liveexi voice. Let's Google this quickly. Sorry, listeners. Liveexi voice. I'm
I
lying to
mean,
you. Werner Wells was the Liveexi voice. Dean Kruiwagen was Koning Rooskrans. Okay. So no. The lady who played Hilda actually voiced Heidi. That's what I was thinking of. Who's another iconic Afrikaans character. But Lieve Exie was also cool because if you were an avid reader of You and Huisgenoot, she was also the comic in there. So you could read the comic, you can watch the show, and it was like South African animation or stop motion. And uh, I just thought she was such a iconic character that when you say her name, loads of people still remember her from the kids show. And I feel like for a probably niche audience, people who watch Afrikaans on TV,
Mm,
this character has stood the test of time. I've since watched not episodes, like clips on YouTube, and
mm.
it doesn't aged well because it's like does not look as great, but I still like I remember so much about it. So for me, my iconic Afrikaans character has to be Yoka Liveexi.
I'm gonna say it's weird to me. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Legacy. I do not remember this thing being a thing. And every time people spoke about it, I thought it was for like people older than me. I don't.
Like an
Where
adult
was I?
cartoon.
Where was it? No, like it's always like people like 40-ish that talk about Legacy. So I just assumed that
Um,
by the time I was watching TV, it was off air. So now I'm like, wait, did I just like miss out on a whole segment of like children's TV?
um, so it was like a radio show that was developed in like the 60s, but it did eventually come on like SABC. Oh, it also it was in 1978, but I feel like it
Okay,
repeated on SABC continuously.
okay.
So
So
it
maybe
was
I just
it's an
avoided
old show.
Afrikaans until 7 basically, is what happened.
Yeah, I'm like 1978, but yeah. So I just want to segue to Ludik and tell you a little bit more about it. So I was lucky enough to watch the episodes of Ludik before it premieres on Netflix this Friday. But it tells the story about this man named Ludik, or that's his surname. He wants to save a kidnapped family member, and he's an enterprising furniture tycoon. But he has to use his secret diamond smuggling operation to transport guns across the border in order to save his relative. I know that doesn't give away much, but that's exactly what you should go into the show with. When I went into watching the show, all I knew was that Arnold Vosloo plays a rich man. I knew nothing else. I don't know who was who played what. And as the show came like went in, I just started like unraveling elements of the story as it should be, like with the show, like
Mm,
without knowing anything in between. And it's very much like a thriller. Ludik himself is a very complicated character because he's a bad guy in a sense because he's smuggling diamonds,
and
but you also
guns
root
and
for yeah, and he's a bit aggressive, but you also root for him because you kind of want him. He's the goodest of the baddest of the bads.
mm,
There's a lot of bads, but he's the goodest of the bads, and it's an amazing ensemble of actors that play the roles. They are, you will know them. They are from Afrikaans television throughout the years. And it's a kind of, as much as I love Afrikaans television, it kind of feels like, they finally free because yeah, they're on a show where they can show sex. Oh, not show sex, but like, show some aspects of sex, which we don't usually see on Afrikaans television.
yeah.
They can show murder. There's some scenes that are quite graphic. They can swear. I was just like, oh, they're saying swear words. What? Um, the,
It's not like that conservative Afrikaans stuff that
yes.
we
So I actually
generally see.
yeah, so I spoke to in our second interview with the women, I spoke to Diaan and Inge about this. Diaan plays Ludik's wife and Inge his assistant or secretary type thing. And both of them have quite like hectic scenes that you wouldn't have seen that before on your public broadcasted shows. But and they talk about conservatism in the Afrikaans community and how it actually, it shows this shows more how people are. We don't like whereas that tends to show like a very conservative side. This is not like the opposite of that. As Inga says, this sort of shows how people actually are. People are complex. There's different layers to people, and
Mm.
the show deals quite a lot also with toxic masculinity in the Afrikaans community and how that affects males. Um,
Oh.
and like fathers with sons, brothers with each other, saying this is how a man should be and how it affects, men that aren't like that. And it's done beautifully, especially through Rob van Vuuren plays a character called Swace, and the way it develops in his character through those 6 episodes is beautiful. Um, Not always easy to watch, but he plays that role with like 1,000 hearts in one, and I was like almost brought to tears. And he's in our interview with him, which is the first interview you will hear. He talks about that more, and he talks about like what toxic masculinity means and how it affects men. You know, so yeah, we got to speak to them about quite deep issues, and it's a compelling series, and I will implore you to watch it. So this will be our first interview. So our first interview is with Arnold Vosloo, Rob van Vuuren, Jandre LeRoux, and Sean Cameron Michael, who play Arnold plays the main character Ludik. Rob plays Swace de Villiers. Sean Cameron Michael plays Arend Brown, who is the villain of the series. I know why I said Arend is actually not an Afrikaans character. I don't know why I said that an Afrikaans character. And Jandre plays Bowles, who is like a Russian. He's also kind of a villain, but he plays a Russian character. Um, Interesting accent work in the show as well. So that's who our first interview with, and then I will pop back in to introduce the next part. And Arnold will be the first person that you hear in the interview. Okay, so what drew you to Ludik as a project?
I wanted to do Ludik because I could act in Afrikaans, and that's why I did it. That simple, Afrikaans.
For me, it was just an incredible script. It was like unlike anything I'd ever read before, unlike anything I think portrayed about South African culture, and particularly Afrikaans culture. Incredible cast, and for me, the role of Swace was the opportunity of a lifetime. So it was a no-brainer, definitely.
Draw card for me, same story. Amazing scripts.
Afrikaans? No?
Amazing scripts. Obviously, wanted to work with Arnold. We had worked on a show, Criminal Minds, in the States years ago, but we never actually had any one-on-one scenes. So really wanted to work with Arnold on screen.
Didn't want to work with us?
And really wanted to work with Ian Gabriel. He's done amazing work, and so I was really excited to be working with him. And obviously Netflix. So that was a big draw card. And of course Rob and Jandre.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for
He
me,
doesn't mean it.
I've worked with this
He
guy
really
before.
doesn't
He's crazy, but for me it was well, the draw card was Paul Based, producer. He phoned me and said, "Listen, now I've written you something." I'm like, "No way! This is like wow! It's like hope, after Corona and all that stuff." Picking it up, and I'm like, "Yeah." I read through the pilot episode. I'm like, "I love it. I love this guy. I like doing accents." Trying to do accents.
I mean, I didn't know that you could read.
And it was amazing. Yes, you didn't, did you? But I got schooled on this. You got so schooled on this. Okay, now you need to keep quiet. Hush.
So, when looking at all four of your characters, like something that came out to me was that there's a lot of toxic masculinity.
Toxic.
Yeah, toxic. So,
But still love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you think, like, the expectations that are put on men and boys, like, to be a certain way affects the way your character acts in the series? With no spoilers.
What do you think, Rob?
Sure, I think that's a very interesting question. I think it covers masculinity and toxic masculinity in South Africa, and particularly in Afrikaans culture, in a way that hasn't been done before. I think Daan's journey, you really get a sense of understanding and empathy for how he has become the way he is when you see that backstory in them as children. Obviously, my character, Swace, is very much a victim of that toxic masculinity. He's been bullied his whole life. He's never been big enough or man enough to fit into this family that he so desperately wants to be a part of, and even just the culture. So I think particularly in that kind of family dynamic, it's very, very rich, and it deals with it in a way that's very honest and very raw. And, you also see it in Kleindaan's character and the relationship between the two of them, and then Uncle Swace coming in and kind of relating to him as a kid that's being bullied and that can't kind of be the man his dad desperately wants him to be. So I think it covers a lot of that in a very, very special and real way.
I think it's a great question because, I think with all these characters, they're damaged.
I think it was a great answer.
That was a great answer. That's why I was going to say, whatever Rob said, just take that.
But these guys are damaged, and this show shows their vulnerability and how damaged they are and the stupid choices they make and the consequences of that.
And we baddies have to deal with their stupid consequences. Yeah.
So maybe it shows the audiences, that maybe don't make the wrong choice.
Yeah, there were tough days on set with the masculine stuff, and Jandre recommended that we wear women's underwear, but we couldn't go. We couldn't go that far. It was too method for us.
Did you guys not do it? I did it.
I am.
Don could. Yeah.
So when, other than the toxic masculinity thing, when you guys were researching or creating your characters, what were you inspired by, or who were you inspired by?
When you sign up to do a film, you look for inspiration everywhere, whether it's in the drive to work or the song playing on the radio or the garment you're wearing that day. You're desperate to find something that'll inspire you. So it changes from gig to gig. But what was so good about Ludik were the scripts. You're just as good as your script. And from the word get-go, and I'm talking 6 years ago when I started reading this, they were good. The scripts were very different and very good. So I knew I had a shot of doing something unique because the script was good.
Mm. Yeah, the characters on paper are really very fully formed. They kind of jump off the page when you read them. And that was it's very seldom that you get a script that's kind of that rich and complete. Yeah, so it really felt like it was just all there. It was just now we just must hoy. And we did.
Yeah, I think for me now, I've played lots of baddies. So, every time that I get the fortunate enough to actually get a job, I'm trying to bring something fresh, something different to it. And specifically, that's with my character. It was originally written as a dodgy South African businessman, and we decided to rather make him an Irish businessman who's involved in the underground. And it's also because it was for Netflix. You got 200 million viewers out there, and we wanted to go to more of an international feel for it. So throwing an Irishman and a Russian into the mix sort of, mixes things up.
And yet it still feels very authentically South African, very authentically Pretoria. Yeah, but it has this global appeal, I think.
Yeah. Pretoria.
Yeah, and the story is just so gripping. That's what I loved about it. I could, when I read it, I'm like, yes, I want to be part of this. This is inspirational. This is just getting to do accents and just that kind of stuff. I love it.
You weren't let's say my first choice, but you looked great.
Yes, luckily you didn't make the decisions.
You literally just took your shirt off, and I was like, okay, cool, done.
With his female underwear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Our next interview is with the women of Ludik. So we chatted to Anele Mdoda, who's the executive producer of the show, Tina Redman, who plays Lil, Inge Beckmann, who plays Rina Goosen, and Diaan Lawrenson, who plays Annette Ludik.
I love your beret. Oh my God.
Dusty pink. Always pink. I love yours too. But so, a question for all of you: what drew you to Ludik as a project?
The people. For me, Ludik is all about the people. The actors, the creatives, the executive producers, all of them, the directors. When Paul initially contacted me, I was like, I'm in. I didn't even read a thing. I didn't see a script. I was like, I'm in. It was the people.
So, for me, I'm one of the producers, and Paul is my business partner, so is Frankie. And this is a story that Paul had been trying to get going for a good 10 years. So when we formed Rose and Oaks, which is the production company, and we all came with like slates of things that we want to do, because we've done a lot of things. We've done talk shows, we've done reality shows, but this was our prized cow. Like, it was the holy cow, and everything we did, any money we made elsewhere, we always knew that we wanted to take it towards making sure that Ludik happens. But also we were very careful about wanting to keep the story pure, so we couldn't just go to anyone. And that's why Netflix was the perfect platform, because they're all about the creative of something. And that's why their shows have done so well. No one wants to like dilute it. Oh no, make it palatable for this audience and that audience. And if you watch Ludik, you're gonna see it's so raw. And the beauty of it being raw is that the performances, all you needed was a script, performances, and direction, and then magic happened. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, these three ladies, they come alive. Like, I know their lines. Like, I saw them last time, like, oh my God, I know a line. Like, and it's nice that you can be, a producer, but still fan out. Like, I'm fanning out, because they're just so talented, And I think they're going to win Emmys, and then they must know me. Because they'll be closer to Beyonce, and I need somebody to get me closer to Beyonce. These are my people.
I think it was just like an instinct thing for me. I was like, this feels like it could be really cool. And then once there, it was a similar thing to what drew you. It then just became this family that I just absolutely fell in love with everyone. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everyone, but I think I was first introduced to my character before getting to read the script, and I was like, this is a very cool character. I want to be a part of this. I want this. And then once I got the role, I got to read the script, and I was in. There was no getting me out of that. And then obviously meeting the people, the cast, the crew. I mean, it was like a big family with a common goal, and it was just beautiful. Yeah.
So a question I have is that, Afrikaans television series tend to lean more conservative. And, this is very different. Like, I mean, your first scene, you're having a sex scene, you have obviously BTS.
Yeah.
Guilty.
And, and all these things we don't usually see.
Yeah.
So, how did it feel to show this different side of an Afrikaans woman? Or, South African woman?
Can I start with that?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think it necessarily showed the opposite side of conservative. I think it showed like real. You know what I mean? It's not that it's because a lot of conservative people have secrets, and they have certain kinks, and they have certain tendencies that they're not willing to really discuss within the community. So I don't think it's necessarily like this crazy story. I just think it's showing like real people processing their sexuality and processing their, I don't know, moral rudders, and it's real. It's what people are like.
For me, it's exciting to see Ludik in Afrikaans like this, because the Afrikaans people watch international shows with the same kind of relatable human content in it. Yeah. And it has always fascinated me that we are not showing that in Afrikaans, which is what we're doing now. We've made global content that can be related to anywhere in the world. It's just in Afrikaans, which is exciting. It feels like it's just pushing the envelope a little bit in where we should be going. Yeah. In my view, anyway, with Afrikaans content.
I completely agree with
what she said.
Yeah. She said. Yeah. I just also believe that everyone thinks they're conservative because it's something that you want to hold on to, because it's almost like your moral compass. And as soon as you lose that, you feel like you're going to lose all control of what you're supposed to keep intact as a legacy. And, with I'm Xhosa, and with Afrikaans people, I always feel like the closest beings to Xhosa is Afrikaans people. We really have such similarities, but also we think we're conservative until you're not conservative. And then when you're in this moment, you're like, oh, I actually like it here. Everyone has a vice. I just always say, don't practice two vices at the same time. Otherwise, you're fine.
And other vice.
And in Ludik, all the characters are losing control of exactly...
Yeah. What they hold so close
Exactly.
to who they are. Like, this is my moral compass, and I can't. And that's the thing, is that it's such a, and that's life. And that's what I love about Ludik. It's life. It's a it's a slippery slope. And most of the times we always just want to go look where we fell and not where we slipped. And I think Ludik is just 6 episodes of showing us every possible avenue that we can slip at.
And they slip.
Exactly that. So, going off what you're saying, like, this is such complex female characters, and obviously women are complex, as we've just said. But when as watching it, I was like, I thought I knew who all of you were, and then as the episodes went on, like layers started getting revealed. So when you
just point at her, don't be scared. Point at the one that betrayed all of us. Like we were sure we were in with her. Then you're like, girl.
Okay. But like when you were finding inspiration for your character, what did you look at? Who did you look at? Like, where did all of you, not just
I mean, sometimes, like what you mentioned earlier, like sometimes you research your character and you sort of beforehand, and then sometimes I do that, but other times I just I kind of just settle into her after a while.
Lean into it.
Especially if you don't have the luxury to to be on screen the whole time. You have to sort of drag that, I don't know, you have to I don't know. It's not something I can really intellectualize. I think with Rina Goosen, I just sort of stepped into her. Maybe I played a dimension of myself in a way, but not in that way. But
tell us more.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of found her. I had a very typical sort of like Pretoria businesswoman in mind, but I didn't play her on the nose. I played her. I played something else that I can't put my finger on. I can't answer you.
Your own version.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you want to create characters that they're parts of you that relate to it. And like Inge said, like parts that you can lean into, that feels comfortable. But with Annette, Ludik, there was a volatility to her where she's desperate and open to anyone giving her comfort and finding solace in places that wouldn't necessarily be in her her comfort zone. So it's finding bits in the script that speak to you naturally. It's finding bits that scare you and that pushes the character into spaces that become interesting for you, so that you immediately can relate, but you also have moments of volatility and insecurity in a character that pushes you into new spaces.
And I think for Lil, what inspired me and and how I played her, I was really led by Arnold and what Dawn needed and the support that Dawn needed. And so that's how I could create the character. I worked around how his character was created and written. And I made sure that she was grounded. I made sure that she oozed confidence, and that was important.
But that's interesting about the women in Dawn's life, because when Arnold and I started talking about the relationship, I said the first thing I don't want to do is make this woman a whiny wife.
Yes.
I don't want her to be someone that sits at home and, where are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
I don't want to, and I think with someone like Diaan Ludik, he has selected women in his life
that are calm.
strong.
Yeah, and they've got like a temperament for it.
Yes.
Because your rhythm and him was the same. Because even in moments where Diaan is facing like, you're like, it's the end. He's not going to make it out of this. And he just calmly makes his way out of it, right? And you find that with all the women that are around him, like, no one loses it. Like, even when you're crying in a... I'm reserved, but I need to tell you. And what I found about your character as well is that you were always looking for spaces where it made you feel like you belong here. Because there was a lot of, you're not from here.
Yeah,
we were like this. So even like with Space, who is like an absolute rubbish, yet he still belongs to the Ludiks more than you do.
Yeah,
you know, and you're like,
say.
but I behave. I'm behaved. Like, look at me, love me, Yeah.
But it is that thing of creating female characters that are three-dimensional, that are strong, that fit into the picture, that isn't the normal mold of like the wife, the housewife. Not that there's anything wrong with that, obviously, I'm not saying that, but that there's other elements, and that kind of complements Don.
Yeah, it was like a carefully curated harem. You know what I mean?
I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Our next interview is with Zane Meas, who Sevendalan listeners will remember as Neville Mankies, who plays Brigadier Davies, as well as Tshamano Sebe, who plays Charles Tzike, creator of the show, and producer Paul Bass, and producer Frankie de Toit.
Okay, my first question is for Paul.
Yes.
So where did the idea come from for this?
So the idea came from stories that you hear, right? You had a braai, you was talking to friends and you hear about dodgy things happening. And the original idea actually was called Tow Truck Mafia. That was the original idea, which was a very dark and serious world. And I shared it with Marie and we started discussing characters and, what this world looks like. And that's what formed Ludik and the facade of the furniture store, etc., etc. So and that's why you still see tow trucks in the show now, because it's still a big part of it. So yeah, it came from the original idea was Tow Truck Mafia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the rest of you, what drew you to the series?
The paycheck. I'm an actor, sir, and a free lunch. Ask an actor, tell an actor there's food. No, listen, seriously though. Netflix #1, an Afrikaans series on Netflix with some great cast, good friends, people I've worked with before, great directors, great script. You just couldn't say no. I thankfully didn't have to audition. I paid Paul to get the part. He said, good for my CV. So that was the draw card for one. And that's what an actor wants, to be on an international stage with a language of your own, from your own country, to tell a story that's from Pretoria, with the Oaks here, I'm sitting in between two Pretoria guys, and just to work with great people. That's it. That's an actor's dream, and I get to do that with Arnold Vosloo, Diaan Lawrenson, and all of that on Netflix. International, 192 countries, and let's go and export this thing. I was very excited to be involved with that.
Yeah, I co-produced with Paul on this. Myself, him, and Anele are Rose and Oaks Media. And when we started speaking to Netflix about Ludik, but that's what I loved. I loved the idea of creating this Afrikaans series, this world Pretoria that we are from, like seeing places that we know. When we see those highway scenes, I'm like, the amount of times I got stuck in traffic there, and we're on that Brakfontein interchange, the first thing for me was that from the Netflix team is to say, because that's what their first thing is, they say, yes, guys, we are a global platform, and everyone will see this, but you tell your story. And I was like, I love that, and when Zane and them all came on board, I was like, this is the kind of story we want to show the world. We want to show the world Pretoria. We want to show it with these actors and these characters. Like, it's incredible,
I want to add on what he's just saying. Pretoria for me is an interesting place because I was never there.
Oh.
You understand the history of South Africa. So it was an opportunity to come into Pretoria among the Afrikaans speaking guys, which is the current South African political, social geographical situation. So it was more interesting for me to be able to be among the Afrikaans speakers. When I come from, as a South African, you know the story. And so it's much more interesting for me to interact with the Afrikaners speaker and the Afrikaners audience, so that we become one. Because South Africa has never became one like this.
Yeah.
And this one is actually the first one. And it gives more interest to me as an actor as well, and as a South African citizen, being among the Afrikaners speakers, actors, artists, producers. It was a blessing in disguise. I say, no, this one I must take it with both hands.
Yeah.
And then I must put the vice on it.
So when I looked at both of your characters, they seem to exist in like a grey area. Like they're neither all good or all bad. So how did you interpret your character?
That's life, isn't it? No one is really ever black and white.
Yeah.
And that's a nice thing to play as an actor, is when you have this duality that you can play off of. Everybody's got their little secrets. Brigadier Davis is a good cop, loves to do his job, but at home things aren't going well, and he's having an affair with the lady at the... You watch the series,
Yes,
so you know.
He's
having an affair with his character.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've seen that, so that's how people are in real life, and you get to play that, and that's just lekker. You never ever just play the good guy or the bad guy. There's always this grey area that everyone really operates in. I think that's how you wrote it.
It's bad writing just to write a one-dimensional character.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got issues to deal with, so it's better to have a good guy with bad intentions or a bad guy with good intentions. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, in a human being there is always good and bad. It doesn't matter what nationality. There's always good or bad, black or white, green, whatever. There is good and bad.
Okay. So my final question, so what was your favorite scene of the entire season? Everybody.
Oh, you said no spoilers. This is going to be tough for me. It's too tough to just pick one, but what I am going to say, because I don't want to give spoilers, but what I do want to say is there's a moment with Brigadier Davies that I'm surprised when that like something gets revealed around his family, and it catches you off guard. And the same with Charles, Tshamano's character. Like Charles, I think that's what's beautiful about both the characters that Zane and Tshamano play, is that they help us learn more about Diaan Ludik, and at the same time we get to know about them, and their interesting pieces of the world. I kon nou nie weggee wat daar sien is.
I loved Rob van Vuuren's performance in this thing. I thought it was fantastic. I worked with Arnold before, worked with Diaan before, but Rob van Vuuren just kind of pulled that one out of the hat. You kind of go like, the boy can act. He's not just a comedian. He can really. I thought he
knocked it out the park.
He lived the role completely, and it was just great. Yeah.
Tshamano, you go first.
Yeah, it's true what he's saying, because when I watched, I felt like, this guy is so amazing. He's at his best. I think, you can think like he's possessed.
Yeah, that's
He was possessed in the character.
And of course, your stunt work was great.
Yeah, your stunt work is incredible.
All his stunts.
Yeah. It's a Tom Cruise of Ludik.
There are so many things. Yeah, the stunt and other things. And if I would talk about Arnold, I never knew him before. I'm not a good Afrikaans speaker, so I don't watch much of the Afrikaans movies or series, the television stuff. And it's more like a discovery for me. And being on set with him is very intimidating.
Yeah, even offset.
Yeah, it's intimidating. So I was not very sure about who he is, what kind of an actor he was. Yeah. But with them, I then had to show myself on stage, like in front of the camera.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see on 26 August on Netflix only, what people think of Ludik and what their favorite characters and moments are. So ask me that question is like, which child's your favorite one? Because all these characters are like mind child.
Yeah.
So I look forward to people, watching it, and if they like it, share it and tell everybody about it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was the cast and producers of Ludik. Ludik will be available to watch this Friday on Netflix. And if you're listening to this on a day that is not the day when we come out, Friday the 26th of August on Netflix. So this is Netflix's first Afrikaans series, and yay, we're excited. So, Leanne, let's get into our favorite segment of the week, Crushing On. What have you been crushing on this week?
I literally, as you asked this question, I just wondered, you didn't speak about Never Have I Ever season 3 yet, right?
No.
I know we spoke about it privately, but we have not discussed it on the podcast. That is what I'm crushing on. Quite honestly, it's all I watched this week. And it was amazing. So season 1 was really good, really different, but very intense because of all the grief and stuff. And season 2 was kind of meh. Like, it was good, but it was very middle of the road. Season 3 was exceptional. I laughed so hard for so many scenes, laughed out loud, actual laughter. The character development is amazing of all the characters. I am living for Trent as all of it, just as Paxton's bromance buddy, him and what is her name? Him and his new girlfriend.
Yeah.
They get together, and it's like at some point I literally turned to Steve and I was like, they have the healthiest relationship in this in the show, which is wild. It's just, season 3 of Never Have I Ever, 10 out of 10 recommend. It's so good. Yeah, that's what I'm crushing on this week.
Eleanor, his girlfriend is Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Yeah. For me, Never Have I Ever did not drop. For all three, I've been in love. I love this show. Without a doubt, even through her bad decisions, I stand my girl Devi. I love her. But it has been great this last season, seeing her grow and feel the consequences of what she's doing, and think through things smartly. I love the season 2. I thought it was brilliant. I just no, and I'm team Ben and Devi, so I loved it.
Dude, okay, yes, no, yes. There was a moment because they obviously introduced a new character. There was a third potential interest, and it was so wonderful watching all of it, because I was like, oh, I love this for her, finding somebody else, because it felt like she was just going through the motions between Ben and Paxton. But then I was still like, no, but Ben and Paxton, it has to be one of them. And then, but also what I really enjoyed was that they developed the other characters' arc so much more. So it was still a lot of Devi and Devi growing, but you actually got to see everyone else mature with her or go through things without her, if that makes sense. So Fabiola had her own plot line, Eleanor had her own plot line, Paxton has his own plot line. And so it was actually just nice, because you what they've done so well over the last 2 seasons is invest you in the lives of all of them.
Yeah.
It's not just
and my girl
story,
Kamala,
but then Kamala finding her groove. I'm sorry, when she moved into the Hollywood hotel for children or whatever. Sorry, spoilers. But so funny. It's just the season is just so feel good and hilarious and easy to watch. I adored it.
I did want to see, if I have one gripe, I wanted to see more Vanessa. And I must say, I was very disappointed that the storyline that she did have was dropped so quickly because I was kind of rooting for it. I wish we could have a
I
spoiler
know.
a spoiler episode about this. Maybe we can look at that
Later on, yeah.
But like a spoiler filled episode, because what if people haven't seen it, like me that still hasn't watched Stranger Things, the new season. But
same.
But like so let's not reveal too much. But I was a bit disappointed by that. I love Anissa, and I wish she had more of a storyline this season.
I do think it was weird because even when they end, so in the timeline of their high school journey, this is the year before senior year. So even as they were wrapping up the year, I found it interesting that the excitement for the next year didn't really include Anissa. Like she wasn't in the scenes where where Eleanor, Devi, and Fabiola discuss like senior year.
Yeah. It's like she's not in the group anymore.
At some point I was like,
no, bring back Anissa. When are we gonna get two, like an American show, like probably have two Indian girls in a group? Like, as someone who is 14% Indian, I really felt represented by that. And now I'm like, now it's back to Devi being the token Indian girl in her group, and like, no, I want to see more. The great thing about Brooklyn Nine-Nine was that they had two like Latina women in the show, like in the group. Like
it wasn't like
one token. Like, bring back Anissa into the group. And I know she's like, no, she's gonna hang out with jocks. No, you can be a jock and still hang out with your friends. Team, bring back Anissa. That's my point that I'm standing on. I love her. And I mean, like a bisexual. Why did I say biracial? Bisexual Indian woman in a damn American show. When have we seen that? I'm trying to think. Oh, that girl. No, I can't remember. Maybe there is, but I mean, like a teenage girl.
Bend it like Beckham.
Yeah. Bend it like Beckham is the last time we saw.
That was it.
And I mean, that's not like that's just our queer reading of it. But I mean, when last, it's for a why do I keep saying biracial? I'm listening to Mariah Carey's audiobook, so I'm like, she keeps talking about being biracial. so it's in my head. A bisexual Indian teenage girl, we haven't seen that before, and it would be great to see more of her character and more of her growing. Give her a spin-off. I want to see her at college. Yeah. So for me, I got the privilege of watching the first episode of House of the Dragon on Friday night. By the time this episode comes out, the show will be available for everyone to watch, so it won't be so cool as it is right now. But so I watched the first episode of the Game of Thrones prequel show, House of the Dragon. I must say I was very skeptical because, number one, I was very low on Game of Thrones. Even though I was obsessed with Game of Thrones, I was very low in it because of how bad the last few seasons were. So I wasn't all that keen. Secondly, not a big fan of prequel shows because I don't like knowing what happens in a show. And I was more keen for the other show because there was a few Game of Thrones prequels greenlit, and there was one with Naomi Watts which told like ancient times when the first men arrived, and I thought there's not much we know about that, even in George R. Martin's like encyclopedia and stuff. It's very laced over, and there's a lot of mysteries that we still aren't aware of, whereas the Targaryen history is quite well documented, so there's a lot we already know, and I wasn't all that interested in watching Targaryens fight. So I must say, when I went into the show, I was like very meh. I watched the trailer and I was a little bit intrigued. When I watched the show as well, apparently the other show was scrapped because it was too different from Game of Thrones. This one is very reminiscent of Game of Thrones. You back in the Red Keep, you back in King's Landing, and you see all its political intrigue. So in that aspect, it's very much like Game of Thrones, but it's a lot more focused because it's only on one central location and one family that it's centered around, instead of, Game of Thrones used to hop around to all the different parts of Westeros. So that's very interesting. But for me, what I liked about Game of Thrones also was the mystery. So we didn't know about who exactly was the prince that was promised. Could have been Daenerys, it could have been Jon Snow. We didn't know how the White Walkers came to be, or how they were going to be defeated, or what the mysteries around all of those things comprised of. There were so many mysteries. But yeah, I feel like we don't have that same thing. And I don't know, they might still introduce it. But I was like, but I did enjoy the show. Like, I was mesmerized. There was one point during the viewing of the screening where we were sitting at a table and the table decorations caught a light, but none of us noticed because we were so into the show. And then one of like the one of the ushers or whatever people, the security was like, and went to go put it out. We didn't notice a fire in front of us. That's how intriguing the show was. So I'm excited to see what happens next. You know, Game of Thrones itself took a little bit of a while to get in, but the budget for this is a lot greater than Game of Thrones season 1. So the dragons look amazing, the sets look amazing, the camera work is stunning. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes, and maybe they will create sort of mystery that I don't foresee. But if you like Game of Thrones, I'm pretty sure you will like this. Unless, like my friend Danny, who hates the Targaryens, you're not going to like this because it's the same sort of like dragons, incest, all the things that that made. But it also, I mean, no spoilers, but I mean, because I have read the encyclopedia and stuff, I kind of know what is happening. But if you enjoyed the whole Dany versus Cersei thing, there's a very similar dynamic, which hasn't started yet in the first episode, but is going to happen in the show where it's two very strong women up against each other, and that is quite intriguing. And it'll be interesting to see how they put it across and how they make it work. But yeah, so I am crushing on House of the Dragon, which will be available to watch on Mnet DStv channel 101 from Monday, the 22nd of August. On that note, we have a new competition available to all the afternooners out there, I believe it's called. So the latest film in the hugely popular After series hits theaters this weekend. After Ever Happy is a romantic drama directed by Castile Landon. The film is based on the 2015 novel of the same name by Anna Todd and is the fourth installment in the After series, following After We Collided, and After We Fell. In this film, a shocking truth about the couple's families emerges. The two lovers discover that they are not so different from each other. Tessa is no longer the sweet, simple girl she was when she met Hardin. The film stars Josephine Langford and Hero Fiennes Tiffin, reprising their roles as Tessa Young and Hardin Scott, respectively. The After series of books have been read by over 703 million people globally. The books were initially released on a free platform called Wattpad and have since been published and then made into films. We're giving you a chance to win 2 hampers worth R1,000 each, containing a deluxe makeup case, shopper bag, power bank, party light, notebook, and a pair of movie tickets, because the movie is coming out. To win, head over to our social media channels for a chance. Thank you guys so much for joining us for season 3. We'll be back next week with a new amazing guest to chat more pop culture news and info. Today's episode is brought to you by Syntec. Syntec is a technology company that sources and distributes industry-leading products and brands from around the world.
Me, you can find at Caryn Welby on Instagram, at Caryn Welbys with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter, Wildest Dreams, at wildestdreams.substack.com. The podcast can be found at Crushing On Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find us at What's IGN Crushing On YouTube, and you can find more information about this and all our other episodes on our website, crushingonpodcast.com. Send any feedback to mail@crushingonpodcast.com, and you can send us voice notes at +27 78 362 2566. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. The show is produced by me, Caryn, as well as Rebecca Barches and Leanne Phillipson. The show is edited by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof, and the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others to find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then.